Jim, I want to ask you a question about some of this testimony. We hear that the samples that were found in various locations in the Redwine home were ultimately tested. Some of those samples were a mixture, meaning there were multiple Redwine DNA discovered there, which would have been Corey Redwine, Mark Redwine, and also Dylan Redwine. So it would have been a mixture sample, but Dylan could not be excluded. But then we also have one sample where Dylan Redwine is the source of that DNA, and that would have been the blood on the love seat. When you have this testimony regarding DNA and the testing that was conducted, where there are some conclusive and some inconclusive aspects to it, how do you think that the jury will take this, and what can the prosecution do to make them take this evidence and help them prove their case?
Well, when you had the one statistic where it was 1 in 28 quintillion, which is 18 zeros, and that was presumptively, this is Dylan's blood, it's on the love seat. And then you've got a situation where there was testimony, there's no other bloodletting events. That seems pretty dispositive in terms of, well, there was some incident which caused blood. But then you've got to look at it in the broad situation. This was his father's home. Yes, it's in Durango, Colorado. Yes, he had to take a plane to get there. But how many times had he been in that home before? This is a 13-year-old kid. As a parent, we all know kids have nosebleeds. Kids have different incidents where they may cut themselves while they're playing, especially a young boy. So you really have to tie this in together to show whether or not there was any other plausible explanation as to where that blood could come from. But I was struck by just the wide disparity where you've got 1 in 28 quintillion for some of the blood sampling and 1 in 600 plus. It shows how just exact a science this can be, but also how there can be some wiggle room when you're dealing with DNA of such a small sample that's found.
Right. Well, this DNA evidence coupled with the other forensic evidence that the prosecution is probably going to be putting forth for this jury, and that would have been the cadaver dogs and where they hit the scent of Dylan Redwine, is going to be very interesting in how the jury takes this evidence.